I'm Nelma Jean Bryson, and I'm a writer. This is the time of my life when I can do what I really love, and writing is what I really love. I've always written as a child. My grandmother taught me at a very early age how to make my letters. I started out with my granddaddy's carpenter pencil and brown paper from the grocery store. Anything I could find to write on, I wrote on. And we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have fancy tablets or pens or sparkly markers or anything like little girls have now. But I love to write. I started out writing poetry. I still write poetry, song lyrics, books. I have 3 books that have been published so far. The main one, the main novel, is Mama Dow, and it is loosely based on my mother's life and the stories that she told me about her life. My mother was born at Balsam, definitely an Appalachian woman, and on the book cover, that's what I put, that an Appalachian woman joins the Women's Army Air Corps in World War II. And that's the beginning of the story, and it goes from there. A lot of what I remember from my childhood and from stories that I was told about my mother's childhood and about my grandmother's childhood are incorporated in what I write, because it's what I know and it's what I love. The mountains are a part of me. I realized that when I lived in Texas. I hated flat land. I didn't feel safe. I felt very vulnerable. I still do when I go to flat land. There's something about being surrounded by the mountains that just feels safe and comfortable. In the early 50s, mid-50s, children just could roam. And I did. From the time I learned how to walk, I could go down to the creek, which was one of my favorite places. I love the creek. I could wander around. I could wander around Balsam. I could go all the way down to Knight's Store. And I was perfectly safe. As a child, I didn't realize that a lot of that was because I was related to everyone that lived between us and the store. I did know about my Uncle Norman, who was postmaster at Balsam. And his house was on the way to the store. And Uncle Norman was always good for a nickel for an ice cream cone. And that's one of my fondest memories. The world was different then. It was more innocent. It was more trusting, especially in the mountains. Everybody knew everybody else. There was a sense of community, of family. And my family wasn't an ordinary family by anyone's standards, but I didn't know it wasn't ordinary. In our house, when I was little at Balsam, it was my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, and me. And it was a wonderful experience to have 4 generations together. My great-grandmother and I would just talk all the time. We could really relate to each other. My grandmother was like a mother to me. We were very close, and she's the one that taught me about cooking, cleaning, laundry. All of it comes together to give us very strong roots in the mountains. They were pioneers of the very essence that we think of as pioneers. And they had to be tough to survive because the weather and so forth, the terrain, the isolation, although it wasn't as isolated as people like to think. The talent that is in these mountains, the writing, the music, it's just amazing when you take the time to find it. And we've never, I guess, as a people, we've never gone out there and insisted that anybody noticed it. There's a whole lot more to us than they have any idea of. So maybe this will help. Now, maybe what you're doing will help get the word out. Maybe people read my books, they'll understand. It's different, yes, but any area of the country, the people, according to their heritage, are going to be a little different than the others. Get right down to it, though, we're all pretty much the same.